Hello, I'm Joel.
And I'm Alex. Welcome
Welcome to
to
the
the
Commander's
Commander's
Journey,
Journey.
the place where we discuss our favorite format of Magic, Commander, from the perspective of a new player.
And an experienced one.
This journey is for new Magic players who are interested in Commander. Well, today we get to talk about our top 5 picks each for Commander 2020. So, everybody I know has had the whole weekend, had the week to look at all the different decks that um, Wizards put out. Some awesome commanders, a lot of awesome cards, and we just want to talk about our top 5, what we think are, which are basically our favorite 5, and in the set. And then are the rules. We're just going to stick with the commander set for now, and I think we're going to do another episode for Ikoria and all those cards as well.
Yeah, with this way we can, adjust those separately. And there's so many good cards from both sets. I don't think we'd give each card justice. Everyone would say, oh, you missed this card and that card if we didn't at least split it up a little bit. I even think we're going to have that either way, but it would be real bad if we tried to combine them together.
Exactly, and there's so many good cards. So as long as these are in Commander 2020, these are our top 5. But let's start with some of our sleepers. Let's start with some cards that we think each of us picked a card that we think maybe a little bit underrated, and might turn out to be a little bit better down the road.
Exactly. And, these are just cards that, and what we're defining as sleeper is one that just hasn't, the price hasn't been reflected yet. Mind you, it's early. Maybe it'll be really, obvious by the time it comes out. But as of right now, we're going to count them as sleepers. Okay. So, my sleeper pick is Nascent Metamorph. It's 1 in a blue for a creature shapeshifter. Whenever Nascent Metamorph attacks or blocks, target opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. Nascent Metamorph becomes a copy of that card until end of turn. Then that player puts all cards revealed this way on the bottom of their library in a random order. It's a 1/1. So, this one's an interesting one. Definitely adds a chaos factor to the game, but I think this can be a really fun card, and I think more often than not, especially if you're attacking the right person who has a big creature deck, you can kind of use this as a way for 2 mana to become something very big and potentially really scary.
I think it has a lot of potential. Like it kind of looks like an otter or a frog or something in the artwork, which is cool. It's a shapeshifter, right? But we were talking about before. I think maybe the reason it's not on everybody's radar is because it doesn't quite have like one of those evasion type of things where it's a flyer or has protection from something or something of that nature, and it's a 1/1. So maybe people feel like it can be removed easy and it's hard to use.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll get a little bit of a boost when we put the counters on them. Now we have the new mechanic where we have counters with keywords on them. So that counter will stick with it even when it transforms into a different creature. But what I really think is a likely version of play or line of play will be you get Nascent Metamorph out turn 2. The guy who is the big creatures deck or the big stompy deck is ramping their early turns and hasn't necessarily gotten a creature yet by your 3rd turn. And sure enough, you're going to get to swing with them. And even then, if you attack, and chances are they're 2-drop or 3-drop for the turn, you'll become something bigger than that 2 or 3-drop. So it's a little bit of dice, but a 2-mana potentially really scary card like a Darksteel Colossus or a Gashath or Zakama. I don't know, my brain jumped to dinosaurs, but just something huge for 2 mana seems completely reasonable with this.
I think you definitely build around this, or if this fits like within your theme, it could be really a great card, especially because you could just just morph into something huge, like you said, and it's 2 mana. Maybe you got to throw protection on it or something, or make it flying, like you said. But I think it's a good pick, definitely a sleeper. The sleeper I chose is a white card. I end up picking. I think we have a few white cards in our top 5 each of us. They did really good with white. This
White
go
got the exciting new stuff.
Some really good stuff. So the sleeper I picked is Call the Coppercoats. It's 2 and a white for an instant as Strive. So this spell costs 1 and a white more to cast for each target beyond the first. You choose any number of target opponents. Create X 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures those opponents control. Now, the reason I picked this for my sleeper is because for 3 mana, it's an instant. I don't think I'll ever use the strive effect to pay more to target more players. You could, if between all three players you're playing against, there's a bunch of creatures. Maybe you want to do that. But I picture this: somebody drops Avengers Zendikar or something big down and puts a lot of tokens down all at once, right? And then for 3 mana, I can just choose that one target opponent and create that many 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens to protect myself. So it's like if somebody else gets a big drop to drop a ton of tokens or get a bunch of stuff on the battlefield, then I can just at instant speed for 3 in white make that many 1/1 white human soldier tokens. So I think this has potential to be really powerful and really strong, especially in different color pairings that white wants to be aggro, like white red black, that kind of thing. I think it really could be great.
Yeah, definitely too. I can totally see you using the strive cost as you get later in the game, where you might be able to even use it as a win condition by just dipping a little more mana into it, and then really going off. Okay, so on now to our top 5.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of certain color combinations, my number 5 pick is Cartographer's Hawk. It's 1 white for a creature bird. It has flying. Big surprise there. When Cartographer's Hawk, you know, right? It's a crazy thought. When Cartographer's Hawk deals combat damage to a player whose controller has controls more lands than you. Return it to your owner's hand. If you do, you may search your library for a plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. It's a 2/1. So this is the first time we actually have real ramp really in white.
Oh, wait, you put it on the battlefield? You don't put it in your hand?
And that is where we're getting at. This is not an artifact. This is a mono white card that gets you it on the battlefield. Now you have to jump through a lot of hoops. Similarly to my Nascent Metamorph pick, you turn 3, hopefully they don't have a flyer, and you can swing and get that off, and it goes back to your hands, which is a form of protection, though I think more often than not it'll be a downside, not an upside. But the main thing I like about this is the colors that need it the most, specifically mono white and Boros, will get the most benefit from this, because especially in Boros can give it haste, so it can do it on turn 2 if you have a really cheap haste enabler. Or again later in the game to just do a surprise swing if you think you can pull it off, where it would be really useful. But you can do this too for in a mono white deck, just because again this is the first real mono white ramp.
Yeah, I think it's really good because every low cost bird that I've ever got out in a game, as long as I'm on curve, I got it out turn 2 or 3. You're usually able to swing in, especially not everybody has flyers, especially in a game of a commander. You have
everyone having everyone having flying or reach turn 3 seems like a tall order.
Yeah, exactly. So you're at least going to get be able to ramp 1, and then you probably can pull it. It goes back to your hand, and then you can do it again later, right?
Yeah, and I see it too. Again, I think it'll be more often a downside at bouncing back to your hand, sadly. But there is a version of this where it offers you a little bit of protection because of that too. So give and take.
Yeah, I think maybe it makes it so it doesn't seem like such a big threat, but you can then get it out again and do it later. Like if it just stayed on the battlefield, you're able to do it. You're right, it is stronger because you can get a few swings in. So maybe that was their way to balance that too. Because if it was just sitting out there, just swinging away.
I think this is how they avoid the card advantage situation. It didn't super give advantage; it really gave up tempo. But to help balance it out, they had it bounce back to your hand.
So that's a great number 5. My number 5 is also a white card. It's a really good card. It's Dismantling Wave. For 2 and a white, it's a sorcery. For each opponent, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment that player controls. And then it's got Cycling. For 6, a white and a white. You can discard it and draw a card. And when you cycle Dismantling Wave, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. In Commander, you're always looking for single target removal. You're looking for ways to destroy permanents, destroy creatures, destroy artifacts, enchantments. And this is just, for me, the way I look at this, it's a 3-drop and destroy up to one target artifact or enchantment. It's already just a removal spell at 3.
And it could destroy up to 3 of them if you're in a 4-person game, because each opponent you get to do
Exactly.
that too.
For each opponent, right? So it's already really powerful. Just a single target removal. Now you might not, if unless you're in a cycling deck where you can reduce the cost of cycling, it is kind of steep to pay 6 white and a white, but that's not unheard of. And if you need to, you can use this as a board wipe. So if you get it later in the game, and you need to pay all that into it, you have it to destroy all artifacts and enchantments. So it's a real flexible card, and just a single target removal. I think already is super powerful. Just at 3 CMC.
And one of the nice things about cycling is you can do it at instant speed. So this can be an instant speed destroy all artifacts and enchantments, which could blow up a strategy or someone going off.
That's true. Very true.
Okay, on to number 4. Now, number 4 is a very interesting card. I think it was one of the first cards spoiled. And it's definitely a weird one, but I think it's a fun one as well. And this is Eon Frolicker. It's 2 blue and a blue for a creature elemental otter. Has flying, and when Eon Frolicker enters the battlefield, if you cast it, target opponent takes an extra turn after this one. Until your next turn, you and planeswalkers you control gain protection from that player. It's a 5/5. So just throwing that out here, just begin with, it's a 4 mana flying 5/5 in blue, which is a little crazy, but that's not even the main appeal. In some ways, it could be very bad giving your opponent an extra turn, so I don't think this is always a smart move or is great in every playgroup. But what you can do is you can make a deal very easily and use this card to get very political, to give your opponent an extra turn, maybe take out another player, and then you're sitting all nice and good for this extra swing.
Yeah, I think it definitely could be a very good a way to make a deal with a person, right? Like you were just saying, especially because I think a lot of times there's always somebody at the battlefield who is, arch enemy number 1, and you need help to get them. So that could be helpful. But at the same time, you're also giving them extra card draw and extra land drop, so it could be a little bit of a drawback too, though. Wouldn't you say?
Well, exactly. And that's kind of why I think it has the higher cost on it. It's a bit of an up and down here. I think there are many situations where this is fantastic, and there's also a lot of situations where this might be a dead card in your hand. But honestly, if you can make the politics work, you're in a team game. I think a lot of situations you'd be surprised how much this might just be useful to you or to another player, especially if you're digging for something or you just need to make something happen.
And I think looking at the text, if you have a commander or a commander deck that allows you to have different ways of getting your creatures on the battlefield, not just casting it, it doesn't necessarily have to be a dead card in your hand, because his ETB doesn't trigger unless it's cast. So if there's other ways you can sneak it out, you can still sneak out your 5/5 flyer. So moving on to my number 4, I have Selective Adaptation. It's 4 green and a green for a sorcery. It says reveal the top 7 cards of your library. Choose from among them a card with a flying, a card with first strike, and so on for double strike, death, touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance. Put one of the chosen cards onto the battlefield, the other chosen cards into your hand, and the rest into your graveyard. So this is a really, really good card. Now it might seem a little steep to pay 6, but you're looking at the top 7 cards of your library, and you're potentially getting 1 on the battlefield. So there's your cost right there. Others into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. So if you're playing any kind of deck that has a good amount of recursion, in which there's a lot of green decks are like that, this is really good. Now, obviously, this goes in one of the precons for Commander 2020 in the Abzan deck, and it really fits there because of all the keywords. But I think for the most part, like Game of Commander, you're going to have several creatures in your deck that have some of these keywords: hexproof, indestructible, lifelink. It's inevitable, right? So I just think there's a ton of value here.
Yeah, I definitely think as long as you're playing a more creature, focused deck, or a deck where you can reliably hit at least a keyword, I think this is totally worth playing. I mean, it's a basically you don't get to search through your whole deck, just the top 7. But assuming you get at least one card that's worth 6 mana, that's your cost right there. And if you get anything on top of it, that's just extra value that all of a sudden you can put in your hand like you tutored for it, or all the rest in your graveyard if you have you want to put them there. And if you don't, you don't have to. You can just leave them on the top.
Exactly. And getting that one onto the battlefield, especially if you, like you said, a creature heavy deck where you got a lot of big creatures, you want to put this in there because you're just going to get that cost. You might be paying 6 and getting a 9/9 out there or an 8/8 out there, right? And there you got your value right there, plus the other cards you were able to put in your hand and the graveyard. Good card.
Exactly. And you can pick and choose. So you put as many in your hand as you want. If you want one in the graveyard, even too, you can put whatever ones you want in the graveyard. It seems as well, as far as I understand, for this card, which seems very powerful.
It's very selective. Very selective.
There you go. So, I guess we're on to number 3.
Number 3.
And number 3 for me is you're going to see this trend for a little while here, but there's nothing quite like playing something for free. There's nothing quite like being completely tapped out and being on the ropes and not really being on the ropes and surprising your opponents with something a little deadly.
Especially in white.
Especially in white. And so someone could probably get this card already. My number 3 is Flawless Maneuver. It's 2 and a white for an instant. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. But its effect is creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. So there was a version of this when I kind of looked at it. I thought it was good, but I didn't know if it was top 5 worthy because I was comparing it to Teferi's Protection. But then I realized in a situation where you want Teferi's Protection, often you wouldn't mind 2 Teferi's Protections in the deck. And this is a way you can surprise someone with it because you have to leave mana up for that one. This one, you could leave no mana up, look like you're completely out. Someone does a board wipe, and guess what? You don't care. You're just like, okay, cool, all my creatures are indestructible. That was a scary board wipe. But, you're sitting fine, and everyone else is back at square one. So, really can turn the tide very quickly with this card.
Oh, yeah. That first part of the text, if you control your commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost, is just, that's nutty. And we're going to see that a few times with this
I will say, this whole cycle is just, I don't know about you, but I could see these being commander staples for a little while after this, definitely for the next few years.
Oh, for sure. And then even if your commander is off the battlefield, it's only costs 3 CMC, 2 in white, so it's still pretty inexpensive.
Yes.
To get that effect, which is a great effect. So, Flawless Maneuver. There you go. That's our 3rd white card we've talked about yet.
Yeah, we got some.
It's the 4th white card.
Oh, there you go. We're talking about white. They just got the funnest stuff. What can I say?
They got some good stuff.
They needed it.
In fact, I'm going to stay on trend. I'm going to talk about another white card. My number 3, I think it's a wonderful card. I think people really know how good a card this is. And it's in white. It's Verge Rangers. It's 2 in white for a creature human scout. With first strike, you may look at the top card of your library anytime. And then as long as an opponent controls more lands than you, you may play lands from the top of your library. And it's a 3/3. So this thing's just nuts. It's Courser Crew Fix, but in white. I mean, it's almost exactly the same. It's a little bit different, but you can look at the top card of your library anytime and then play lands off of it. Of course, your opponent's got to control more lands than you, but often when you're in white, or like you said, when you're in Boros colors, you're usually a little bit behind anyways, right? Ramping up, but this allows you to catch up and play catch up pretty quick. And with the first strike 3/3 human, not too shabby.
And not to mention, too, you get that nice card advantage from it being off the top of your library instead of your hand. It's like having an extra card in hand, assuming it's a land every turn.
Yeah, so it's really hitting those two things that white has been struggling in, which is card advantage and ramp, right? So it's not quite ramp, but it is card advantage, and it kind of helps you ramp a little bit if you're way behind, and you got lands coming off the top. It's just a good card.
I think it allows you to be one turn ahead where you would have been if you didn't have this card out. by getting that effect off the top of the library. And the other thing I want to talk about this card too is what's nice about it is you don't have to keep it revealed the whole time. You are the only one who has to look in your hands or the top of your library. So you can peek, see if it's a land,
Oh,
unlike a
that's
lot of
true.
other cards where they play them completely revealed and
I think
everyone gets to
actually,
see what you're going to
doesn't
draw.
Courser have it completely revealed? Yeah, play with the top card of your library revealed for Courser. So
Yeah,
yeah, this one you can just peek at it, look at it.
exactly. You can keep that surprise factor.
Exactly. You need any advantage you can get when you're in Boros colors, right?
Exactly. Speaking of surprise factor, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
move it to number 2. So
Okay.
my number 2 and my number 1 as well, just I think are the definitely very extremely powerful cards from the set. Really are going to shake up the Commander format. My number 2 is Deadly Rollick. It's 3 and a black for an instant. Same text as Flawless Maneuver. If you control a commander, you may cast the spell without paying its mana cost. And this one's sweet and simple, just says exile target creature.
Mm.
So for those of you guys who listen to our Theros Beyond Death top 5, I was head over heels about Eat to Extinction, which is pretty much the exact same card, except this card you can cast for free, and that card you can't.
Yeah. And even if you don't cast this card for free, it's the same mana cost, isn't it? 3 and a black, I think. Each of
It
Extinction
is
was.
just an upside version of it, where there's a version of this where you don't have to pay mana for it.
It's like Eat to Extinction, but when you got your commander out, don't pay anything.
Exactly. It is
Exile
scary.
target
And
creature.
you can come out of nowhere with this. It's an instant. You're about to get swung at something hard. It looks like you're completely out because you have no mana open. Boom. You just get to play Deadly Rollick. Really, go in there with it. And I think it's going to be one of those things that this will swing a lot of games and be a real big card in the format.
And for 4 CMC, just to exile anything already is great. So to get it free is just insane. But at that cost, it's still a great, great card.
Free is a fantastic mana cost to pay.
Yes, that's my favorite. That's my favorite cost to pay. Okay, my number 2. We're gonna go into a different color here. I think this might be the only red card in here. It's a really good card. It's also, and if you control your commander, you can cast a spell without paying its mana cost, right? This is Deflecting Swap for 2 and a red. It's an instant, and of course, if you have your commander, you don't pay anything, and you may choose new targets for target spell or ability. So it's very similar to Narset's Reversal in blue, right? But instead of countering it and giving it back to the person's hand, you just choose a new target for a spell or an ability. So if somebody pulls a card out that Alex just used, Deadly Rollick, and wants to exile a creature, you can just be like, nope, I'm going to pull this card out for free as well, and you're going to exile that creature. So just change the target of it. And it's just, I think it's just a really, really good card. Any of my red decks, I'm putting this in.
I totally see that play pattern coming where someone does Deadly Frolic, really thinking that they got someone, and then someone uses Deflecting Swat, not paying mana either, and just slapping it right back at him.
Yeah. How about you just exile your own commander? I think that sounds good.
Let's get that out of here.
Let's just get that out of the way. Yeah, I think Deflecting Swat is going to be. Yeah, you're going to see that in a lot of anybody who likes to run red. It's just, and even for 3, like even if it's not free, just the ability to change a target of a spell or an ability. I don't play red a lot, and I'm newer to Commander, but it just seems like that's something that blue usually does things like that. But to be able to do this in red, it's pretty nasty.
Yeah, red has a few effects that are like this, but this is by far the best I can come up with in recent memory. The one thing I want to say too is, surprisingly, it's our only red card on the list. I would have talked about one card, but we ended up talking about it last week on the top of the last episode, so I didn't feel the need to bring it up here. Same thing with a couple other cards we did. There's so many good cards from the set. We literally can't talk about them all, so we just figured we wouldn't tread over old ground and do something new.
Yeah, just find our top 5 favorites, and we end up picking a bunch of white ones. That's what was. These are some fun cards.
They just got the new stuff. Okay.
For your number 1?
Number 1.
That's my drum roll.
Drum roll. Um, I number one, I think will be one of the, if not the standout card from the set. It's definitely the one I think that has the most buzz right now. I honestly, if the price isn't ridiculously expensive, I'm going to toss it in almost any blue deck I can get away with, and you might know what it is.
It's gonna
That
be
card
expensive.
is Fierce Guardianship. It's 2 and a blue with it for an instant. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. Ooh, that's good.
Oh
And
wait,
then
that's that
counter
again.
target non creature spell. Oh boy, is this a scary card. It is slightly weaker than Force of Will, but if I'm comparing it to Force of Will, that's kind of scary already. That is very, very scary.
Yeah, that's really. I mean, the only downside is it says counter target non-creature spell. It doesn't say counter target spell, but to be able to play a counter spell for free in blue.
That's what I'm saying. It's literally just a step down from Force of Will just because of that non-creature spell text. But so many games, it's about to get decided by a crucial board wipe or a crucial, redirect of targets, or maybe someone's gonna play something, like expropriate for a ridiculous number or something like that. Really about to go off, and you're tapped out. You think you're out of the game, but nope. It turns out I still got a counter spell up my sleeve, and you
Mm,
can really just go turn the whole game on its head.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think everybody who plays against people that play a lot of solid blue games with good counter spells knows. Yeah, this is nutty right there. Because literally, like you cast your Deadly Rollick, you try and exile my creature. I deflecting swat you, and then you Fierce Guardianship me and counter my deflecting swat.
Then we're back in it.
And we're all did it for free, which is the best part of it. Nobody tapped anything.
Oh my god, that would be quite the play pattern. But it's going to happen, I'm sure, more than a number of times to people who are playing with the precons.
Well, I think this is an excellent number one pick, and I think yeah, it will go up in price. I think I don't know what it's at right now because things have not been um, physically released yet. So, but yeah, definitely get your hands on a few of these if you can. Don't trade them. Don't trade them. Okay, well, I guess it's my turn for my number one, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Another drum roll. Yeah. Okay, so my number one also has a lot of buzz around it. I think a lot of people just know how good this card is, and that is Manascape Refractor. It's 3 generic mana for an artifact. Manascape Refractor enters the battlefield tapped. Manascape Refractor has all activated abilities of all lands on the battlefield. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to pay the activation cost of Manscape Refractor's abilities. So this is all abilities. And in the game of Commander, other players always have some really awesome lands that play well with their deck, but also just are super powerful lands, right? That can tap to make a bunch of tokens, or that maybe they got a Cabal Coffers that can tap to multiply their swamps, or they got a Gaia's Cradle to tap and multiply their forests, or like you were talking to me about, have a Maze of Ith, and then
Yep.
now all of a sudden you have a Maze of Ith, and you can stop people from smacking you in the face.
What's
And
nice about it being on Monoscape Refractor with the Maze of Ith is you can tap it for mana at their end step, if you don't end up needing it. So you can get full value if you have any instance or flash cards. But you can keep it up the whole time as a Maze of Ith if you need it.
yeah, and then like say you're in black, right? And somebody else is playing black, and you both have Phyrexian towers, but you haven't got yours out yet, but they have theirs on the battlefield. Now your Manascape Refractor can become a Phyrexian tower if you need it, right?
God.
It's just so flexible, and basically somebody's going to have a really good land out. It usually happens in the game of Commander. Somebody has a really good thing out. Maybe it's you, but maybe someone else got a really good land. And now all of a sudden, if you get this artifact out, you have those abilities on that.
Literally, the worst case scenario is it's just a 3 mana rock. It's, a
Yeah.
little undercosted, but just barely. And that's the worst case scenario. You're going to have a land that taps for mana, or someone is. But I could see play patterns like someone has, you say Cabal Coffers, and even if you don't have swamps on your side of the fields, let's say they also have an Urborg out. God knows that happens a lot, and then all of
That's
a sudden
usually the
your
combo.
entire board is covered in swamps, so you get all those triggers as well
Yeah,
off the
exactly.
Cabal Coffers. Trying to think of any other really crazy ones. We talked about Gaia's Cradle.
Arcane Lighthouse, right?
Arcane Lighthouse. There is some scary stuff you can do. Commander Beacon.
Mm.
I mean, like, and if something's tapping again just for a lot of mana, even if it's a bounce land, where it's all just tapping for 2, that's already a great rate. Just so many upsides to this.
Rogue's Passage, you can make one of your things unblockable. I mean, there's just so many things that are going to come out in the game of Commander. And I think this artifact, it goes in so many decks, I think. Um, if it's not taking up room where you got to really have another game plan going and you just need a 3-drop mana rock that can also do a ton of other damage.
Okay. I found one complaint about this card, Joel.
What's that?
Why isn't it in the Mardu deck? Why is it in the
It's not.
Sultai deck?
It's in the
Why is why is it in the deck that doesn't need it at all? Why
so,
is it
wait,
in
no,
there?
Sultai needs more powerful things.
no one's no one's begging for Sultai to become more powerful.
Sultai
Why
is
is it
too
in that
weak.
deck? Why don't we have it in a deck that's struggling for colors are struggling for ramp? Even like the cycling deck, I could use it more than the Sultai deck. Just
I don't
God.
know. That's a question for the Wizards. Yeah, you should have put the Manascape Refractor in the Mardu deck or one of the other decks, not the Sultai. Come on.
Did
The
not need it,
Abzan and the
that's for
Sultai
sure.
didn't need it. Like, they don't need help with ramp. All
Oh
right.
God.
What? Well,
That
anyway,
is
these are our top 5, and some cards that we're just really stoked on, excited about, and we hope you guys are just as excited.
exactly. And next week we will do our top 5 cards from the new Ikoria set, and we're gonna have a slow roll into Ikoria's release as it gets rolled out over time due to the coronavirus. So we'll see how that plays out. And, it'll be a little bummer because we're going to get all hyped up for something we can't have immediately. But, it's more important that everyone stays safe and, really be smart about everything. And if the worst case scenario is we get our magic cards a little late, then I can live with that.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is your safety, your family, your friends, and then magic after that. but but we will definitely be doing some more reviews on these on more of our favorite cards, like Alex said, and a few other things we have up our sleeves just for fun.
I think we got a deck tech or 2 in our future. That's what I'm looking at right now.
Yes, some good deck techs. Yeah, and let us know what you guys enjoy in the comments so that we can continue to make that kind of content for you guys. We love Commander. We love you guys, and stay safe.
Everyone have a good one. See you.